So we hoped that that maybe Irma Cherniak would be released prior to the Brussels conference. And sure enough, on the eve of the conference, the night before we were on our way, we got a phone call about 2, 3 in the morning from the embassy, the Israeli embassy in Vienna, telling us that Irma was in Vienna, that he had been released, and he was on his way to Israel. So we said, that's wonderful, and we hung up and we said, he can't go to Israel, he has to come to Brussels. He has to meet all his friends. So we got on the phone with our congressman, Josh Eilberg, and Josh Eilberg was also on his way to Brussels. So he was able to pull strings, and he got Irma Cherniak to Brussels. And we had, at that point, we had sent maybe 50 people from Philadelphia to see Irma in Leningrad. And they all came to Brussels. So we met Irma in one of the hotels where the Israeli delegation was staying. And there he was, surrounded by Philadelphians. It was such a fabulous experience to see him, and he was so wonderful and so appreciative. And then an hour or so later, it came time for us to go to the big palatial hall where the opening ceremonies were to take place. And Irma had to go with his delegation, and we went with the American delegation, and we walked into this hall that was so magnificent with hundreds of activists there, and everybody, each country sat under its own standard. And we looked around and we saw Argentina, we saw Zaire. It was practically every country in the world was represented with their Soviet Jewry activists. And the lights went down, and here we go again. And everybody got very quiet, and the Israeli delegation began to march onto the stage, and it was pitch black except for the candles that they were holding. And you could see Golda Meir, Menachem Begin, just all of the delegates were people that you would know. And the last person in the delegation coming on the stage,
carrying the flag,
carrying and a candle, was Irma Cherniak, because he was the most recent citizen of the state of Israel. So that's how we got involved. But along the way, before we went to see Irma Cherniak in Leningrad, we became involved in the movement here. And so we not only had his name and his information, we had many names in Moscow, Leningrad, and Kyiv. We didn't have anybody in Yalta, but we did find Jews because we wore stars. So we found Jews. But that's how we got involved. It was really on a person-to-person. And we came back and we told the stories to everybody, and then more people went, and that's how the movement grew, because it was person to person.